podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Burek, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Burek and A.W. Schultz.
We invite you to attend our 3-day workshop.
During this workshop, we'll be covering strategies to adjust technological changes as your organization transitions from Industry 4.0 to 5.0.
Walking out of this 3-day workshop, you will be equipped with a 90-day roadmap specific to your organization's digital maturity and unique needs.
Spots are limited. Reserve yours today.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to another Factory of the Future. I'm here with Alexandria Burek and myself, A.W. Schultz, and today we are going to be discussing Gen AI. And Alexandria is going to be sharing us what are some of the 8 steps that go into understanding maturity levels, how AI plays a part into it, and a little bit about how we think AI is becoming the new Wild West. And people are afraid of it, and people still see the benefits of that. So I'm going to let Alexandria go into it right away, and she's going to be sharing what she's been working on and some of the projects that are coming forth for her.
Absolutely. Thanks for the intro, AW, and happy to be back again on a new episode here. So we're doing some research at the consulting firm to get our arms around, digital twin with regards to how it's used in the supply chain network and what we can bring to our clients. And what we're finding is even some of the digital twin providers are actually hesitant to call it a digital twin. But in doing this research, I came across a really interesting white paper put out by Logility, which is not a digital twin, but is a supply chain network optimization tool. So they recommend having going through 8 steps to prepare yourself for using generative AI and making these business decisions based on not only the historical data, but also contextual data. So the first thing is aligning your business goals. If you think about it, I'm thinking about a project I'm working on or kind of just in the distance involved with, and we have almost no goals going into this pilot that we're doing. And very confusing to me as I was sitting in this training. I said, well, what are the goals here? What are we measuring? How are we tracking this system and our usage of it? And there really wasn't a defined goal. So step 1, define your goals when you're implementing any new system, whether it's generative AI or just a new technology. Number 2, you have to have a way to clean your data. So it's all about assessing your data integrity and accessibility. So if you have data in all these different siloed systems that's not talking to each other, the data is not accessible. If your data is peanut butter spread, you're not going to have good data for generative AI to make a thoughtful recommendation or use the predictive capabilities of generative AI. Number 3 is fostering the. Yep.
Yeah. I want to go back to number 2 on the data thing, because that's something that I guess resonates with me. Is often going to in a consulting hat or some other things, and they just say the data is bad. And when you don't trust the data, it makes decision making quite a bit more difficult. So, manufacturing, we always talk about overall equipment effectiveness, and there's always that debate is that they know at that time that the data was bad, and that therefore thou shalt not use that data. And for me, I've always kind of given the feedback. It's like, well, is it 80% right? And if the question is yeah, then let's use it. It's good enough. And that's really what it comes down to, is being able to have a comfort level of being able to say those decisions are based on merit and having that data out there can be used. So when you have AI and you're wanting to make decisions based on the data, whatever that might be, it kind of clears the path and makes the water a little more clear when you're analyzing it. That's
Absolutely.
all I wanted to mention about that.
Absolutely. And I think part of what people should be considering when they're thinking about kind of how to use technology and data in the future, they should really first assess how good is their data and then make a business process systematize ways to clean that data from that day forward. That needs to be top of mind for anybody who's looking to implement a new technology or simply explore, a different potential path with their business. The third concept here is this cross-functional knowledge and collaboration. We talk a lot about this, and I'm really excited about our workshop coming up, because that's going to be one of the key points that we're going to be driving home is kind of not only bringing these different stakeholders together, but also the fourth step is preparing your team. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about upskilling. How many people on the factory floor are tech savvy, and what are businesses doing to prepare? So that kind of 3 and 4, when I think about that, I think, okay, cross-functional. So senior leadership meets factory floor. That's cross-functional. When I think about upskilling, maybe the different managers or kind of more corporate functions can be producing technology training to upskill their team and prepare them for this technology and prepare them to leverage it for future use. We are talking about using AI. I use it all the time in work. If I'm ever struggling with something and I can't think of how to deal with it, I automatically pretty much go to AI to kind of solve that problem. And I suggested that to my friend when we were talking about this pilot program that we're working on in my day job. I said, you might want to include AI or get AI's take on how to best measure or what we should be measuring or what business process and use cases we should be prescribing to the team that's piloting this so we could get the most out of the pilot, hopefully make a successful pitch and roll this program out with all of our trailers. Um, you know, kind of
So, Alexandria,
dive into
does
that.
your work allow you to have access to AI,
They don't
or
even,
are you
I
using it
don't
on
even,
your own?
I use it on my own. And I usually don't tell
But
people what I'm
would
doing.
your site allow you? Does it allow you to open it?
Oh
Some
yeah.
sites they don't. Even,
Yeah.
okay.
I use it for our driver's newsletter. I'll say, okay, we need to talk about this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now make it a more encouraging tone, blah, blah, blah. And it just does it for me. People love what I have to, what I come up with using in partnership with AI. Um, so
I've had some examples where
yeah,
folks tell me they can't use it. All they can use is the Microsoft version, and where I've seen people remove that roadblock is that they put it on their personal, and then they'll have their personal computer and they'll have their work computer just so
yep,
they can have the capabilities. Because some of the organizations are just they don't know what they don't know, and they
right,
fear it, so they won't let you have that. So
right,
that's where I've heard other people have done workarounds, but not letting can't have AI at work as being an excuse. Now, um, there could be some limitations to it, but I mean, if we're trying to solve a problem here, it's still it's
right.
amazing.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. Before we go on to the last few of these, I would like to get your insights or let you take a second to share with the audience how your school is just all over the board here, and they don't know one way from the next on what this is allowed, that's not. There's a lot of cherry picking, and it just seems kind of wild. So why don't you go ahead and share that with the audience, because I'm sure there's other people who are in school and facing the same things, whether it's in school or the workplace.
Yeah, and I remember when I first started this program, it was the syllabus was AI is not allowed. No, and it's been about a year and a half now, and they roll it out and say you can use certain applications, and they just put out a new policy this week that you can use it for troubleshooting or brainstorming, but you certainly can't use it to write your paper, which it can do. But still, those that are making those decisions, I don't think still grasp some of the capabilities that you can use AI for. And I'm still learning every day, but I am always asking my question, I wonder what AI would think if I asked it this? And it's surprisingly, effective on it. But it's, we use the term the Wild West because it's, we don't know like what we can do with it. And it can write a paper, but it's not your true thoughts into it, but it can certainly help you go down a certain alley to bring those thoughts together.
Yep, you could, say, hey, build me an outline or something like that, The next topic, it's kind of a jagged transition here, and this is step 5, but it's developing the technological infrastructure or technical infrastructure for your technology. I don't know too much about this, but I do know that once you start getting into generative AI, this big data, and running all these scenarios and simulations, you're using a ton of server capacity to do this. And that's part of why when you're using AI, you're paying for it because it has all this extra compute that's happening. So right now I'm developing an app, and in doing so, I'm vibe coding. So I'm working with Replit to develop this app. And what I'm learning is like, even in kind of the deployment, there's different ways to deploy it from a technical infrastructure standpoint that I have to consider. So a blog, for example, would have a different technical requirement than the app that I'm creating, which is more robust and constantly running and updating and doing these things in the background. So I think people should work to learn a little bit more about the technical infrastructure, me included, with regards to using generative AI, using the AI bots to help you at work. And then number 6 is discern data security and integrity. So when we were just talking a moment ago about, does work allow you to use AI? Is it locked down? I think there's a part of this that, once you put something into AI, it's then kind of out there. So there's some questions there. And I think that goes back to stage number 1. People really need to think about their type of business and what data security, concerns there might be for their particular business, right? So maybe Coca-Cola with their recipe is totally different than an injection blow molding company that doesn't really have any like secrets per se. So there's going to be a difference there. And I think, again, as long as you're going back to the stage 1 of aligning on your business goals and looking at some of those things later down the line, I think that people will be in a much better position to go live and leverage this types of technology. So before I guess move into 7 and 8, what are your thoughts about data security, or do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, it's no joke that data security is very important, especially these days. I mean, cyber attacks are, I don't think things get talked enough about, but every time I walk through and I do a training, that's always the main thing at whatever organization I'm at. So that's, it's certainly something that needs to be brought forward.
Well, what's interesting too, I've seen, is that one of the what I keep hearing in these podcasts I listen to, is that eventually AI bots will be counter attacking the bots that are trying to hack. So it'll be kind of a light versus dark battle, basically, of good and evil AI fighting each other, basically, to detect and counteract threats of those sorts. The
I
other,
met a teacher. I
yeah,
was going to say I met a teacher, and that was one thing that they, in undergrad programs, they were talking about. The one way, it can write a paper, but they can also use AI to tell you the computer wrote that paper.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so there's counters to it also.
Yep. And then last but not certainly least is ensure technology transparency and then consider plan phased in requirements. So I'm not really sure what they're getting at necessarily with the tech transparency piece. Maybe perhaps out to the workforce, maybe perhaps enabling their clients or suppliers and or customers some level of transparency with maybe inventory levels and things like that. So maybe an integrated model is what I'm thinking there. And then with the phased in requirements, I think it goes back to aligning on your business goals, assessing your data integrity. Maybe step one is getting your data integrity correct, and you can use generative AI probably to clean up your data as it is, and then you're in a better position. Or I think that's another use case for AI in particular is letting AI clean and scrub your data and telling you a prescribed best practice to prevent bad data, going into a system in the future. What are you seeing when it comes, because you do a lot with the planning side of the business, you do a lot with the maintenance and reliability piece. So why don't you talk a little bit about how maybe people could use generative AI in those spaces?
I guess the one thing that I'd like to mention is that what you have in front of you is a project plan. And it's an AI specific how to roll out in your organizations. And what we talked about earlier is like some of these organizations, they don't know where they're going with this. And I think this is a great roadmap for defining what they're trying to solve for,
Yeah.
understanding the stakeholders, building on top of an action plan, communication of it, the transparency of it, and how do you control and manage it going forward. And I think that's a powerful thing. I think anybody that's looking to roll it out in the organization, take a look at this wheel that it's going to be in the show notes and also on the video if you want to see more about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I think about this, I'll say it once and I'll say it again, I'm sure, but the companies that are tech enabled, that are leveraging this technology versus those that are kind of either unaware or unafraid of it. Same for the people as well. I think people really need to consider whether their job is likely to be replaced by AI or something is a job that they can use AI with, right? So be on the forefront of that as a worker, but also as an organization. That's kind of what I see is key. There's a lot of jobs that I think are going to be replaced by AI and by, like, if you think about business analytics, there's likely a large chunk of those jobs, people who are just sitting there crunching the same reports, those jobs will be replaced by AI bots in the next 5 to 7 years, I think. So how do you position yourself or reskill yourself as well to be a partner with AI in your job versus replaced by AI in your job? I think those are some of the things I'd like to leave the audience with to think about as we step into this next generation.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to say about AI?
I think I'm good. I'm clocking out.
We're clocking out like finished goods. Thanks, everyone.
This is Factory of the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.